Hey, welcome everybody. Chris Petri here. Thanks so much for coming by again. We're going to have a fun time. We're going to create some figures. We're going to have an idea of some pumpkin picking. It's autumn time. We're out there. We're on the farms looking for pumpkins. We're going to actually create this wonderful, colorful painting here. We're going to cover all the steps, so you don't have to really worry too much about whether or not you can accomplish this. It's very simple to accomplish a painting like this. We're going to cover the preliminary sketch, which basically gets you all of your subject matter in the right spot on your painting. If not, you can erase a little because you're only doing a light, super light preliminary sketch, and then you can go over the top with a darker sketch, a darker line, which we call a contour drawing over the top of that if you wish. If you want to leave it a light sketch, that's fine. And then after that, we just start going in and doing our painting. And some of the really cool things we cover here are the light and shadow of everything. We have the light coming from the right-hand side across the picture, the sunlight here, and then you'll see the figures have more lit, exciting light on the right sides of the figures here, on the umbrella, on the pumpkins. So everything is really nicely catching some sunlight across the picture with some shadowing on the left side of everything. So we'll cover all that, how to do it, how you mix everything, how to handle your colors in your brush, what colors to mix. We cover it all. We have it's a Extreme Beginner series here, so we have our Prang Oval 16 set, and we go right in and just mix our colors first so that we're all set. When we go into paint, we're going to have everything we need as we go. So we'll get started in just a second, and we'll have a lot of fun, so we'll be right back. Okay, we just saw the finished painting, so we're going to get started. We have our paper here. We have our pencil. This is a mechanical pencil here, a 0.9 millimeter Pentel pencil, mechanical pencil. So I'm just going to draw the outline of the rectangle here, just so it's a little bit more clear on the camera. So we're doing our video here, and we want to make sure I can show the outline of the rectangle like that. That looks pretty good. Now the first thing we do, of course, we're going to do our preliminary sketch. I'll work from various different things. I think I'll just start out with maybe some, I have an interesting, I found this online. This is like for pumpkins, pumpkin picking, and Halloween time. We all like to go out and pick up some pumpkins for the house and for the apartment and so forth. And so this is just an interesting picture. I'll do more of an outdoor scene here, maybe outdoor, maybe like at a farm, pumpkin picking kind of idea out there on the farms, and where they have those little roadside stands, or there's little farms where they have like pumpkins set up on the grounds and go in and purchase them. So we're having a fun time here. It's the autumn, and so I'm going to work from this photograph maybe to start with. And once I get some of these pumpkins on a table, then maybe I'll draw in a figure and a few other things, but just to improv a little bit. But let's work from this first. So maybe I will start out, maybe I'll move this here like that, and I'll start my drawing over here, and I guess I'll make my table about, not halfway, about, I would say a third of the way up. We'll make the tabletop like so. So I'll just kind of run that table across the top here. I'm going to do a preliminary sketch again, very lightly, just to sketch out some ideas first and see how they are looking. And then maybe I'll start doing some of these shapes of the pumpkins. I'm not going to exactly, I'm just going to do a few. They're very light. I'll go over them darker in just a few minutes. I just want to get this preliminary sketch done first. That's all. Some preliminary sketching to get some of these. There's another pumpkin here. So maybe I'll make the table like here, the front of the table. This might be the back of the table over here. So the back of the table here, front of the table here. And already we have some interesting shapes and pumpkin ideas. And then maybe I'm going to hold off right there. Maybe I'll start with, maybe we'll do a figure. So I'll just do an approximation of a figure. If the table's here, maybe the person's waist might be about here, like this. And then maybe I'll make a, maybe there's some chairs or something over here, so I won't have to do as much drawing of fine details. I'll kind of just sketch my way along here. So there might be another table over here in front of this table over here. So we have two tables. Maybe I'll put the other end of the table there. So I have the end of the table here. And that's about halfway across the picture, maybe a little more than half, but so that's pretty good. And we'll develop this, and you'll see how it looks as we're painting it. And I am going to go over with a darker contour drawing. So the first thing I do is I'm just doing my preliminary sketch to get everything kind of set up on the page, so that I don't have a problem later where I've drawn something in the wrong location and I can't fit in other information, if that makes sense. So when we do our preliminary sketch, it's kind of like our, dry run first, and then once the preliminary sketch is completed, then we know we pretty much have everything the way we want it in the picture frame, in the picture space. So when you're doing a preliminary sketch, you always have the ability to maybe go in and do a little bit of erasing with a kneaded eraser if you have to, so that maybe if you drew a pumpkin that wasn't the right size, or if you drew a figure in and the figure was too tall in the picture or something, you could erase it and draw things a little smaller, and it's a lot easier if it's very light. So the preliminary sketch is always meant to be very, very light. You're barely touching the paper with your pencil, and that gives you the ability to erase and make corrections, and you won't be like harming the surface of the paper, and you won't be seeing unpleasant looking dark lines that have been erased, and you can still see them, and it's harder to lift some pencil lines off of the paper if you've drawn in something very, very dark. So that's the whole idea of preliminary sketching, kind of lightly getting things in where you want them. And so I'm gonna get this figure in over here. And this will be a woman, and she's shopping, and she has a bag here. And so she's looking at things, and she's here, and the table's here. There's another chair maybe here, so we'll put another chair over here. So a couple chairs in the foreground here, closest to us. And there's the table, and we have the pumpkins on the table here. Maybe we can do another pumpkin here. Let's do another one. I'll pick another one. So you can kind of take a picture like this and then pick and choose which pumpkins you want to have in the picture frame and in your painting. And so here we might think we can make them all orange if we want. We don't have to make some green and blue pumpkins. They look a little bit different. You might paint those in. That looks kind of different. Might look interesting. And there's another pumpkin there. So we're kind of having a fun time doing and we'll put the lines on our pumpkin. We want to get those in good. Like so. And I think this looks pretty good here. Okay, now let's see, maybe I'll make an umbrella over here. So I'll make an umbrella over here. Maybe there's an umbrella. And I'll just start it over here, and then I'll finish it once we complete our pumpkins. And I think our pumpkins are pretty good over on this side. Maybe we'll make a few more over here. So I'll take some more ideas, maybe this one up here. So we have a pumpkin there. Maybe we'll have a smaller one here, like that. Maybe another larger one here. that. And I'm just gonna, again, I'm just doing my careful but loose and free preliminary drawing, and I will go over this again, darker. I just want to get everything in place here. And I think that might be good for right now. Okay, that might be good. And then I'm going to slide this over this way. So I think I have enough pumpkins on the table now. We're just kind of creating a scene, and we're not going to go overboard with too much information. Okay, and now we'll maybe do another figure here. Let's see. And maybe there's another figure here. Hey, this is a gentleman here. He's looking at the pumpkins as well. Okay, so we have a little more information here. Okay, and I think this looks pretty good. Okay, and then we have, I'm just going to work on the umbrella a little more here. And the umbrella is underneath here, and it goes up like so. Then there's the okay. All right, so we have our basic drawing completed, and then maybe we add a few more things in here. Maybe we add in a couple, some flowers, a couple vases of flowers. These might be on stands, so these might be interesting. Some flower shapes here we can draw. And we're just going to have this be a fun exercise of drawing and painting, and the idea of a pumpkin stand, and it's autumn time. And okay, so once you have your preliminary sketch done, and I know it's very light, it's hard to see. I changed my lighting a little bit. I think it's going to look better when we're painting, and also when I go over and do my darker contour drawing with my pencil. The darker lines over it, you're going to see it a lot better. But I needed to do this preliminary sketch, and I also wanted you to kind of go through that process of doing the preliminary sketch first and thinking about that. Like, it can really save you time later in your drawing and painting if you're working out your ideas first very, very lightly with a very, very light pencil line, barely touching the paper, just kind of getting everything where you want it in the picture frame in your rectangle here. Once you have that, then you can go over with a darker pencil line if you need to. You might not need to do a secondary contour drawing like I'm doing. You might find that your really, really light preliminary sketch is good enough, and you would also enjoy that if you were someone that doesn't like seeing pencil lines in your painting. If you're someone where if you've been painting a while, and this is an extreme beginner series painting too as well, so but if you've been painting in the Extreme Beginner Series for a while, maybe a couple months or whatever, and you're kind of saying to yourself, I'm not sure I like the darker pencil lines in my paintings. So this is a thing where if you get your preliminary sketch done and everything looks good, you can just go right in and start painting. But I do the darker drawing over the top of this, the contour drawing, for two reasons. One, I want you to see the drawing better. So I would tend to leave it like this. I would tend to sketch it, maybe preliminary sketch, and work on it if it looks good. If I need to do a little bit of, additional pencil lines or do some additional things in the drawing, I will do that. But again, I do the darker lines over the top of this because I like the darker pencil lines, and I think I can get a little bit better drawing on my paper. And secondly, I want you to see it on the video here so you can see the dark lines and you can work from this actually and do your drawing from mine. So that's about it. Let's get started in just a second. I'm just going to take a quick break, and then I'll come back and I'll do that darker pencil line over this light sketch that we have here that we've done first, and we'll be all set. So I'll be right back in just a second. All right, we're picking right back up where we left off. We're going to go over our preliminary sketch now with the darker pencil line, and let's see how it looks. I'll start in one place. Maybe I'll start right where I started in the beginning. So I'm going to start out with this female figure here. So I'm going to go around here and there's some hair here and then her shoulder. And a bag there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the chair. So I'm going to go right down here and do the chair. And there's another, so this is a chair with some details to it. Not a lot of detail. And then more table here. So there's like another table here. Another chair over here. And we have a chair over here. And then I'll continue here. Let's do the table. Let's do the pumpkin here. So this is a pumpkin there. And I might not do all the details of the pumpkins, but they are there. I do have light pencil lines of where the creases in the pumpkins are, so that I kind of have an idea of the angles of the pumpkin. So you'll see subtle things with pumpkins when you're looking at the lines of the pumpkins, the creases on the exterior portion of the pumpkins. You'll see those lines. Those can kind of give you an idea of the way the pumpkin is sitting. Like if it's forward, tipping forward, you might see a little bit of different lines. So you can utilize that information if you want once you're going in and painting. But I don't think right now we're going to do that so much. I have them there. I can see them. It might be hard for you to see those fine lines, but they're there. And I'm just going to continue doing the pumpkins here. And maybe we'll have some shadows on the table here. Maybe the light's coming from up here, so I'll put maybe a light insignia. And I'm going to get a magic marker. I'll just put a light insignia up here, just like this. I might make it a little bit darker. That. So that's like a spotlight shining down on the scene. Sunlight, actually. It's outdoors. And then we're going to continue here. So I have the table that goes across here. And then I'm going to, maybe I'll go with the umbrella here. So I'm just going to go up and do the umbrella like so. Like this, and then go across like that. Then the umbrella over here, and then the underside of the other portion of the umbrella that's on the opposite side. It's kind of hanging down, tipping down a little bit, so we're seeing the underside of the other portion of the umbrella over there. And let's see what else we have here. We'll keep this kind of simple, this composition. So we have that. And I notice I might need to add a little bit of a, this is where I just get a little more of like a contour, like a soft curve to the umbrella. The original line I drew here was a little bit too much straight, so I wanted to add a little curve to that line. That's all I did there. And surprisingly, we'll get a lot of information once we start painting. So we've pretty much, let's do this figure here, the male figure. So he's here and he's doing some shopping as well, maybe. And there's some flowers and some vases over here and pots and potted plants. Just to give it a little interest, we'll add these few things in here. I'm improvising most of all of this. I did use the pumpkins as we saw on the table. I wanted to do that because to try to improvise with pumpkin shapes and things like that, that might be a little difficult. But like figures are kind of a little more easy to improvise, right? It's kind of simple, you know. And these are also like, we're standing behind these really nice people here. So we're not doing too much detail with faces. We're going to have just the backs of these figures with the hair and the clothing. So it's not, this is a fun way to practice figures. So there's no pressure where you're trying to do a lot of detail with the facial features and things like that. And we'll cover more of that too in the future as we go forward. But, you know, for right now, this is a fun way to get some figures into your painting and some more information like this. And it's, again, we're having that fun creation of like an autumn time out shopping for some pumpkins. Maybe we're at a farm or a local roadside stand along the country roads. And I think we're ready to actually paint here. So we have a good amount of information here. And this is plenty to work on. So let's take another break. We've gone over this a second time to get our darker contour lines in with our pencil work, and now you can kind of see that it's a little more clear, the drawing that I did here. So this is a good time. Let's take a break. We've been working about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe about 6 or 7 minutes actually, and but that's plenty. And this is so much easier to do your darker pencil line once you do that preliminary sketch. So the preliminary sketch, you're really working harder on the preliminary sketch because you're kind of trying to get everything in the right spot in your rectangle, and you're trying to get the scale and proportion of things correct. And if there's a little bit of, angles or some foreshortening or different, more complicated ideas with drawing, this isn't a very I think the most complicated thing about this drawing is really the table here. You can kind of see how we're kind of looking from maybe like standing up looking down on the table. So you'll see the table has some three-dimensional quality to it. So the front of the table is here and the back of the table is over here. So you can kind of see we do have a little bit of three-dimensional quality to this painting, but for the most part it's mostly two-dimensional. We're not seeing any other angles really so much that are difficult to draw. So that's why I like to also do these drawings and paintings where we're kind of having a lot of fun with getting basics in two-dimensional drawing for the most part, beautiful pencil lines, laying out our drawing really well, preliminary sketching, of course, first. Then when you go over the darker portion, if you do want to add that darker line throughout your painting, well, then it's real fun because you're just going through it, basically tracing over the lines you've already created. And that's a really a fun thing because then it gives you that freedom just to have fun and go through and do a dark pencil line through your whole picture, and which is fun, and it's very freeing and relaxing, and you've already got all that stuff worked out prior doing your preliminary sketch. Okay, so that's one of our methods here. Preliminary sketch first, darker drawing over top. Skip step 2, which is the darker drawing if you feel you have your preliminary sketch done and you like that kind of a look where it's lighter pencil lines, not much showing through. And then the third part is getting in and doing the painting. And we'll do this alla prima. We'll paint this all at one time. We won't do any glazing techniques really, just basically painting it all in one go. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we are now gonna start our painting. This is the fun part. We're gonna start getting our colors prepped, and you always remember and recall when we're working together here, I try to mix up my colors, prior, right? Like prior to going in and painting, let's just get some colors on here. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna take some colors here, mix up some like orange and then maybe some orange red, and maybe I'll rinse off my brush and I'll get some yellow in there too. And I'll mix some greens up here. So you can kind of see, I'll just mix it the same way right here where it is in the palette. Get some browns in there too. Dull down that green, make that like an olive green. And we'll mix a good blend of colors, maybe some purples and some blues. So I'll mix some blue and purple here, some greens. We have the greens up top, so. I'll take a little bit of that too, some Viridian green. So I think we have some really good color out here on the palette to start with. And we can go back in and pick up more color as we need it. And I think I'm going to just do the same process. I'm going to start with the female figure here. So I'm going to pick up some blue and purple. And I try to rinse my brush, and then if I need to just check off a little bit of water on a tissue or on a sponge next to the water pail, that sometimes works, and this way we can kind of start to get some variation. So maybe she might be wearing like a skirt or a pair of pants or jeans or something here, and we want to get it kind of looking lighter, as maybe it's lighter over here, and then maybe we're on the shadow side over here, so maybe it's a little darker over here, like this, and then under there like so. There we go. And then maybe we'll do some light red here. Maybe we'll have like a light orange here. So we'll do a pink top here. So I'm going to make it light. And I'll leave a little bit of white paper between the, unless I think it'll work. That'll work actually. Yeah, we can let that go in there and kind of mix and mingle. And I'll dry off the brush a little bit and try to smooth this out over here. So I'll try to leave this side of the shirt white paper. And again, I'll try to make it a little darker over here. Maybe a little bit of purple there too, just to get a little bit of a different shadowing effect. So just making a little darker on the left and a little more brighter on this side over here, and we can even lift up a little bit of paint over here. And then with just a damp brush, I'll smooth that line out just a little bit there. And then let's do some hair. So we're just having fun going through our different parts of our figure here. So we're going to do some hair. And some brown here, maybe a little bit of orange, just to warm it up a little bit, like so, and maybe some gold and orange over here, just to kind of have it a little more lighter, so we feel like the lights and a little darker over here, like so. And add a little bit of red, maybe, just to make it more interesting. Maybe a little more brown, straight brown, like that. And you can do further work to the hair, although try to keep the hair simple. I find that's really, if you can do that, keeping the hair simple is really better. And then what we can do is once this dries, the her shirt, her blouse here, once that blouse dries, then we can actually do maybe a little more, a couple wisps of hair maybe on top of the back of her shirt, but let's leave it as it is now because things are starting to flow. So we want to make sure we don't let things start to bleed and blossom and cauliflower into other areas. We were trying to kind of keep things a little bit kind of neat. And then let's get a little bit of flesh color. So that's brown and orange and red. And I dry off the brush a little. So we'll do some. And again, you have to kind of gauge your washes. If this is dry here, this blouse, you try to go carefully and see how it looks. Already it started to, the flesh color bled into the blouse a little bit, so sometimes you can lift it up. So that might be okay. Things mixing a little bit and mingling around is okay. I think that should be fine. All right, so we have this figure completed. Let's keep working now, and I would say it's better to let this dry maybe. And then if we let that dry, the figure, then we can start working on the pumpkin that's in front of her here, and then maybe her bag that she has next to her. So the bag over here, I think we can do this bag over here. That should be fine. So maybe we'll use a different color. Maybe we'll use some green. Maybe there's a green grocery bag or something like that. Like that. Like so. And you can let things mix and mingle. And we'll come back and do a little more detail. And let's keep working though. Let's maybe let's do the male figure now. Since we're used to working on the figures, let's just continue with the figures. So I'm going to do the male figure here. So we do the hair first. And then maybe he has on like a orangey brown jacket, light jacket maybe. So I'll just put a little bit of yellow and brown. I'll do some yellow and brown over here. And we'll just do a little shadowing here like so. And we'll have a good time doing this here. We'll just do some shadowing like so. So you can kind of see his arm is sort of out in the light. Light's coming from this way, going across this way. So shadowing is over here. And we'll just work some of that color over this way. Some more golden color there. There we go. A little bit of purple in that tan color. So we have some tan and golden color, and then we have some purple. That seems to look pretty good. And there's some more color there. I think that looks pretty good. Let's work down into the jeans. Let's see if he has a pair of jeans on. I think so. Blue and purple makes a good color for jeans. A little bit of brown mixed in there too. So we can kind of mix our colors. So I use brown, blue and purple, and then a little bit of that cerulean blue. And then I'll just work the colors down like so. And it's a little bit darker on the left side over here, so I'll do that. And it is jeans, so I'm going to take the purple and go over the brown. So I add some brown in there to get the shadowing, a little more darker shadowing there. And then there we go. We just work the colors right into the, this is where we're just working these colors across like so. And this looks really good. You're kind of blending in the colors with the figures so that they don't seem so cut and pasted looking. That tends to be a problem. As artists, we kind of have that problem. Sometimes we create paintings that look like they have a lot of cut and pasted subject matter in them. And the way to avoid that is to try to find areas where things are similar in tonal value. So here, this man's pants are close to the same color as the tablecloth over here in the front. So I try to blend that right into his jeans like that. And the same thing with this woman's jeans or her skirt or dress. So that kind of blends everything right in across the picture. Kind of like weaving it together, tying it together nicely. And there's a good amount of work we've done already. So we are really having a good time here getting our colors on the picture here and our figures. And I would say let's start working those pumpkins over here because the female figure has dried now. So let's start getting that in. We'll get some of our orange and reds over here. So let's go right in like this. And then as we go this way, we lighten it up. And then we take a little bit of purple and do a little shadowing under there, like so. And then we'll go right in and start another pumpkin right here. Let's leave a little white spot there, just so we don't... I guess I'm a little careful sometimes. I try to separate things a little bit while I'm painting, and then I can always go back in and touch it up a little bit and add a little more paint into a spot or two. But that looks pretty good. So we're moving right along here. Look at this. We got the pumpkins going here. We have some gorgeous light, so we make sure we keep some of that light. Let's leave some white spots on your pumpkins on the right side of the pumpkins here. That'll give us that feeling of highlights. So we want to have some highlights on our pumpkins. So here, that might be a highlight there on that side. And then let's do one over here. So I'll do the top like so. I'll leave a couple light spots there, like that. Like this. Then we have a larger pumpkin over here. And let's follow that picture that we had. We can kind of see how we have we can use this as like a guide because the light is coming the same way in this picture from the right side. So I'll just keep that over on the side just so we can kind of see it. And like that, rinse off the brush, dry off the brush, so you just have a damp brush. And we're going to do that. Just have it kind of lighten up here. And that's good. And then let's do one more pumpkin over here. Like this. I rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit on the tissue so that I just have a damp brush now. And then I can just smooth that paint I just put on there. I can smooth it around and work it around so that it won't be as dark on the right side. We want to leave that light feeling over here. So I'll just work the paint over this way. And then let's get some of that purple here for the shadowing underneath the table here. So that's good to do. A little bit of shadowing on the table. Under here too, like that. And then we can work in some stems here for the pumpkins. Like that. All right, looks good. So we're going to continue here. Maybe we'll do some color on these chairs, a little bit of yellowish orange. And we try to think of our painting as something, let's try to maybe mix and use similar colors throughout the painting. Maybe if you saw in the picture in a photograph that the chairs were maybe a different color, but maybe you might want to make them something similar to the pumpkin colors to kind of mix the same colors around the painting. It makes it more pleasant looking. We could add a little darker shadow under there, like so. Over here, a little bit darker paints under there. It gives it a little variety. A little bit of greenish blue too as well. Let's make some warm and cool. Same thing on our pumpkins. Let's add a little cool greenish quality to them. If we add a little touch of green in there, that looks good. We would want to wait though until these pumpkins are 100% dry, and then we could add in a little bit of green if we wanted to just make the colors a little more interesting. So it'll look better if the pumpkins are dry first, and then we put our wash over the top of them once that dryness is achieved on the pumpkins. Because right now I added some blue and green to these pumpkins in the shadow side of the pumpkins, and I already started to make some blossoms and blooms, which are kind of not that great to see in the painting. Once in a while, could be a little bit of it could look like variety in a sense, but we would try to let things dry first. The rule of thumb is usually when you're working in an area, you only have a little bit of time to go back in and charge in some more color into that area. So if we're painting these pumpkins, and we're working on, let's say, one pumpkin here, like let's say we're working on this, or let's say we're working on this one here. Once we're working on this pumpkin and then about a minute goes by, then it's probably not a good idea to go back and try to charge in some blue or green into that orange, because already it's starting to dry, and then when you add more water to it, it's going to make an unpleasant kind of spot on the pumpkin. So if you're going to charge in some colors to whatever subject matter you're creating, you always have that rule of thumb of do it quickly to add in more color, or wait till it dries, and you learn that over time with watercolor. So that's just a little tidbit of information, but maybe we'll practice it right here. So let me try this. All right, so we'll get some orange here. This is our pumpkin here. So that's the pumpkin. Then I'll get a little bit of purple, maybe a little bit of blue, bluish purple, maybe a little bit of brown to gray it down a touch. And then I'll do a little shadowing under there. So that's a good time to do a shadow when everything's wet. And then we're going to dry off the brush with a tissue. And we're going to start to smooth that orange out a little bit to make it look like there's a nice bit of light coming from this over here and shining on this side of the, like that. Now, the time to charge in a little bit of green or blue is right now, where you can do this for shadowing a little bit, and that's it. If we were to wait a minute, like 30 seconds to a minute, then after about a minute, it's going to look unpleasant looking if you go to put in some green into the shadow side of the pumpkin. So I think we got away with it over here a little bit. It doesn't look too bad, but that's always something you keep an eye on. And it'll really serve you well to keep that in mind. If you want to add in some color to something once you've painted it, that's fine. You have to do it fast though, because once that time it starts to dry, then it's a little bit difficult. So I'm just going to do this too over here, like that. And perfect time to do the shadowing underneath here, like so. Okay, that's good. And we'll get a little bit of stems here. And you can always go back in later and add in your stems. That could be like a detail you leave till the end of the painting. And let's do a few more. Let's get a little bit of shadowing under here. These will be our vases here, our pots. So we have some pots under here. And we'll do some orange too. So we have some pots with some flowers, potted plants. So we'll do a little green. We'll mix around a little green. Now that these pants are dry, we can add some green to the figure's pants there, and we'll get in some green here, like so. So we'll do some potted plants here, mixing around some colors, like this. And some splashing to get some more flowers in there, flower shapes. And we have to be careful when we do the splashing that it doesn't go everywhere. And we'll have some flowers here. And we keep this real fresh and loose. The flowers in these potted plants here, let's just keep that real fun and not too much detail. And we have some blue over here in the shadows. Like that. And a little more detail up here too. So we're going to do some and I kind of want to tie it up a little bit into the bottom of to that tablecloth there. And there's a little bit of orangey blue across this here. White tablecloth. I think we've worked now for 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe, wow, 20 minutes already. I'm looking at my timer. So let's take a break. I think it's good to take breaks, and so let's do that. And we'll come back and we'll continue working on the, maybe we'll do the umbrella next. And I think after that, just a few more details and we should be fine. So we'll do the umbrella next. We'll take a break though first. And I think everything is going to look really, really good. And again, we're leaving this kind of simple. We're not going to get into a ton of details. We're just trying to get the basic overall concept of the drawing and painting efforts here. And it's also, we're capturing that nice mood and that feeling of autumn day. And we're out pumpkin picking and having a good time, enjoying the weather. And so let's come back in just a minute and we'll get started again. We'll work on some sky washes on the umbrella. And I think we'll have a finished painting here. All right, we're going to get back into our painting here. We notice on our palette, since we used pretty much, we didn't mix a lot of colors, I would say, we kept our colors more of a simple approach here. So I didn't do a lot of blending of colors and mixing of colors on my palette. So I can keep my palette just like this. And this is also something that's important we can remember. You know, if you're just mixing, let's say, blue and purple in this this part of your palette, this section, right? If you're using blue and purple here, does this make sense? You know, you can continue to mix blue and purple and you wouldn't necessarily have to clean that up so much. And then down here, if you're just using like the cerulean blue or peacock blue, as we call it, it kind of looks like a cerulean blue or a peacock blue there. That one there. Again, we didn't mix anything else but that in this space too. So we don't have to really clean up that too much. And then we were mixing all of our pumpkin colors over here. So our oranges and reds and our medium orange, and then our light orange up here with a little bit of yellow. So we kind of mixed our oranges and reds here and yellow. So that can kind of stay the same. That's not really going to get too muddy and unpleasant looking. So in essence, if you're keeping your palette with the same colors in the same sections, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. Here was our greens with a little bit of brown to make like an olivey green. And then we had a little bit of a Viridian green up here, and then we had some darker green up here. So I just reloaded my palette so that I'm ready to go. And that's a good formula. If you can remember that, try to, before you go in and paint, especially when you first start, get your colors that you're going to use, put them into your palette, get them set. Kind of easier if you keep them really close to where they are in your palette. So like my reds and oranges, right? They're pretty much right here. Does that make sense? So reds and oranges right here, and then blues and purples kind of like over here, and then greens right here in there. So if you kind of keep it that way, or you organize it the way you want to. You're the artist. You have to figure out, maybe you want things a little different than the way I'm doing it here, but that's fine. But if the closer you can get it, so it's just a little bit of green back in the palette, a little bit of medium green back in the palette, a little bit of brown to make some olive green. You're right there. Reds and oranges, you're right here. Yellow, orange, reds here. Then, your purples and blues right here. So they're all kind of like in close proximity to my colors, my mixing areas. And that is a big help. And again, I'm going in for we're going in now with our last wash or two. So maybe we'll do another 10 or 15 minutes and I think we'll be completed. And I just wanted to mix more colors. So I have all my colors again ready to go. And then let's just start out here, and I'm going to go with some color here on the umbrella. The umbrella's over here. It's in the shadow side, maybe a little bit of orange. Into that purple. And then I will try to leave this pretty much white paper on this side of the umbrella. A little bit of color on there, and then more purple over here. So I'll do a purplish mix over here with some orange and purple, like that. And I noticed I left a little bit of pencil marks on this part of the umbrella here. We could use white, maybe some white paint to cover that a little bit, or make it a little bit less visible. So you can always use a little bit of white paint if you have to fix up a few things. And then under here it's a little more, it's kind of a lighter mix under there, like that. And we could take our tissues and blot up a little bit of color if we want to make things a little lighter. Okay, so we have some color going on our umbrella. And We could add a little more color under there. That looks pretty good. And then maybe we'll have a shadow, maybe a purplish shadow on the left side here on the umbrella pole here on this side. So I'm just going to go up like that and do a little shadowing there, maybe a little bit of brown and olivey green just to give it a little different. So like that, maybe a little color to it. Okay, and then you can see that usually will work. If you get some water right on there, clean water. If you lean into your painting with your fingers and you make a mark, that tends to work. See, I got that to lift up a little bit. And then we're going to maybe do some color here. Let's do some sky color. Anyway, up here like so. Like this. So we're going to put some sky color up here. Like this. So I'll take that cerulean blue and we'll go right around there. And we'll start to just get some sky colors in there, like so. Like that. So I'll just immediately try to work in my sky. A little bit in the back here. We'll leave it kind of simple. We're not going to paint everything. But you can kind of see how I did that. I was going to do a blue sky anyway, so I just figured that was the perfect time to do it. Does that make sense? If I had a smudge over here, I already know. Once I made the smudge, I was a little bit frustrated. I said, oh, I just ruined the painting. But then I said, no, wait a minute. I realized I can get some clean water, put it onto the spot, and then quickly with the tissue, kind of scrub it off if I can, and it worked good. It actually lifted up. You saw that. And then after that, I said, well, I'm going to do some sky wash anyway. So then that's how I realized, well, I was going to do this anyway. But sometimes when we get a smudge or something like that, we try to rush and fix it right away. But I did plan on doing some sky wash like that anyway. So, all right, so we have some sky wash in there. We have our umbrella completed. Maybe there's a little bit of color on our table. Let's do a little bit of so I'm going to put a little bit of like orangey, warm kind of colors on the table. Like so. And then maybe under the table areas there's a little more greenish purple, maybe a little bit under there, just to show for there's some shadows there. So that's where we can kind of make some darker shadowing colors. Now with this here, I would go with purple. I try to make it look like purple pretty much, because we use a lot of purple in this picture, so it's going to blend right in and it'll kind of harmonize with the rest of the painting. We wouldn't want to go with like a different color underneath this here. So we want to keep this like a purpley kind of color underneath the shadow under the table. And we'll just do the same thing over here. We'll make some darker shadow over here, like this. And if you go straight into the paint, you can get that darker tone. And then you can even get some more purple up here. And do some more darker touches of color. And then I just rinse off the brush, dry it off on the tissue a little bit, and just smooth out these washes here. And I think we have a good look here. It looks fine. I think I'm going to do a few more details, but not a lot more. I think we wanted to fix up a few things. So I want to fix up this umbrella here. You can kind of see how I drew my pencil lines through this area here of the umbrella, which it's not supposed to be that way. It should be ending here where these angular supports are underneath the umbrella. So we should have stopped the pole for the umbrella right at this line here where we did these two angular supports. But sometimes when we're drawing, we lose track a little bit, and that's not a problem. We'll use some white paint maybe. Let's try it now. See if we can fix this up a little bit with some titanium white. And let's see if I can do this, if I can get a little bit of this. Yep, that works fine. Okay, so that is good. I think we have a good, interesting painting here. It kind of covers all of our skills that we need to build as watercolor artists. We did our drawing skills in the beginning, of course, our preliminary sketch, and then our contour drawing on top of that, if you so choose. And then, of course, we worked on our painterly skills. We worked on blending colors, getting light and shadow in our figures with shadow on the left side. And so we do shadows on the left side of the figure, and we blend those into the right side so that we have a feeling of light, like so. And we also noted that we wanted to keep little highlights here and there. So on our pumpkins, we left little bright spots of light here and there, just a few spots here and there. And I think that's really it. So this is really fine. If we can get this accomplished right here, we're all set. This really looks good. And I always try to just touch up a few spots here and there. Put some more shadow over here on this side of the figures, just a little bit. But I think that looks fine. So we have a fun painting here. I'm hoping you're going to create this painting. Try it 2 or 3 different times if you want to. Maybe you just try one figure with a couple pumpkins. If you want to keep it more simple and basic and you don't want to maybe do the whole painting at one time. Or maybe you're just going to go for the gusto and do the whole thing. It's up to you. You're the artist. If you practice on little sections, though, here and there, sometimes it's a little easier to do that, especially if you're just starting out. So, again, if it's your first time here, thanks so much for coming by. I really appreciate that you're making a start with watercolor. You're joining along. We're actually on the journey together, creating paintings, creating drawings, working on our skills, and you're going to have a wonderful time. And I always mention, if you subscribe on the right-hand side below, this way you stay in touch with us and you'll always see what's coming up next. Each week we're creating new paintings, week after week, month after month, year after year. And we do every kind of subject matter in watercolor. So we're drawing and painting in watercolor. We're doing beautiful scenes with figures like this. We do boat scenes. We do landscapes and seascapes and city scenes. We do, portrait work. We create all kinds of beautiful paintings, all different subject matter, and we just cover the same techniques and methods over and over again, so you get used to them, and then that becomes your really your go-to toolbox, so to speak, of all the tools that you have as a watercolor artist. And then from there, you can start branching out and doing some different things on your own as you feel, led to. But for the most part, we cover all the basics here, so you get the fundamentals going with your painting, and you'll have a lot of good feelings about it. You'll feel positive because you are learning, growing, and starting to really grasp the basics of watercolor painting. Okay, so we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for coming by, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.